What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and those who've been following for a while will know I've moved to a new unit, but as you can see, the lighting's not great. If you haven't seen me move to this unit, go click in the top right hand corner now and you'll see that video of the whole process of moving it along, because it's not as simple as it sounds. But due to the lighting down to, well, not emergencies, but it needing to be done, I've put those batten lights up just on the top there, so when we turn them on you can see they do actually make a fair bit of a difference. But now that those lights are up and the top lights are white, the bottom lights down below now look old and they're still a bit dim, even though obviously a light's a light, but for the camera it doesn't pick up well with the dim light and it causes a little bit of motion blur, which you can probably see as I'm moving about now. And as this is mainly where I work on these mats, you can see it's got the warm light above it and there's quite a visible difference between the two. So because of that, I've decided to treat the unit to some new lighting that'll make that bay look a lot better. So in these two boxes is some more brand new lighting for the unit, and both are LEDs, so they're more efficient, they're a lot brighter and they'll look a lot nicer. So in this front box here, there's some more of those LED battens that we can stick on the low level roof all the way around, and then for this bay, that's got more of the special treatment, and I've bought these. These are the Hexagon Grid lights with a nice little border to go around. So when the cars are in this bay, they'll have nice lighting above it. Recording wise, I can get good lighting down there, and when the cars are actually shiny and not all flaky paint, it'll reflect nicely on top of the paintwork. So I think the first thing is to fit the hex lights, because they'll probably take the longest, and I think I might need to build a frame to stick the lights to stick them to the roof, because on this roof, as you can see, there are 3 beams, and I don't think with the way the lights work, in terms of how they're secured, that they'll actually stay up on just those 3 beams. I think they'll need a good base behind them, but I'll figure it out as we go along. Because I'm going to be working over there, I need to get the GTO out the way, and in the last video, I tried my hardest to get this car completely finished, but it didn't quite work out that way, and if you haven't seen that, go click on the top right hand corner now. There's not much left to do to it, but there's still a fair bit that needs to be done. But the main thing is it runs and drives, so I can get it out the corner, we can clean all that up, and we can get the lights up on the ceiling. Let's see if it starts. I've got faith. As a good example, you can already see the GTO is under the new lights now, and I think it looks a lot better because the lights are a lot brighter. And the paintwork on this car is horrendous, but it still makes it look good. And I think you can tell the GTO's been sat for a while because of all the condensation that's just spat out the exhausts. But my next challenge now is to clean these mats so I can lay the grid out on the floor to see how big it is and how it's going to mount up. So 3, 2, 1. And there we are. The funny thing is, it actually doesn't look that much different, but it is a lot cleaner. So now we'll get the grid laid out upside down because it'll need to go up that way, and I can see how big it is and how I'm going to mount it to the battens on the roof. As a lighting system, there are actually a fair few parts to this. You get 57 of the small battens for the Hexagon Grid, 12 of the long battens for the border around the Hexagon Grid, multiple different plastic connectors in different shapes to make the different shapes, but because everything just plugs in, it's very simple to put together. That's the hex light laid out, and I'm glad I got a 14 grid because it's almost bang on perfect for the size of that bay. And I think I figured out how I'm going to mount them to the ceiling, and I don't think it's going to be as difficult as I first thought it was, which is fantastic. Because on these lights, as you can see, they're all interlocked with these little plastic connectors, and on these connectors they have little eyelets, and on every connector is a little eyelet, meaning this strip here going forwards, this center line from here moving up, I can mount that to that beam. Then when I come down here, luckily enough, this connector here is where the power comes in, which works out well for where the light is currently. So then this moving forwards again, all that, those 1, 2, 3, 4 connectors will line up with this beam almost bang on, so that's not going to be that bad. And then on the end, I've got that one, those two in the middle, and that one there, and they'll line up with that almost perfect as well. And because the lights are on a bit of a grid system, there is a bit of movement because there's a bit of flex in the plastic connectors and the plastic battens to move things to where I need them to be, and they'll still keep the shape relatively. And then when they're up, we then put the grid on around these, but I think that just gets cable tied to the edges with these clear cable ties because it just butts up against the plastic there, so that shouldn't be too difficult. Once the hex is up and we know where it is. So now I'm going to get a tape measure the centres so I know exactly where the lights are centred, and then I can start mounting them up in parts and build them back up again on top of the roof. One thing I do want to say is if you're ever going to mess with electrics or anything like that, either be qualified or competent, because it hurts when you get it wrong and it is dangerous, so don't take it lightly. If you are going to do something like this at home, you're not sure or anything else, please seek the advice of an electrician and don't just wing it, because you could get severely injured or even worse, you know.
Before I fix anything to the roof, I need to make sure to take some measurements to get everything as centered as I can. So now it's just a case of making sure that everything's secure, it's straight, and when I come down and I look up at it, it all looks like it's in the right place. So if you're liking this video so far and this channel and everything I'm trying to do with it in terms of fixing the cars, building my dream garage setup and all the rest, go hit that subscribe button down below because it really helps me out, it helps the channel grow, and it helps me be able to do bigger and better things in the future. So go hit the subscribe button and hit the like while you're there. Now that everything's up on the roof, it's secure and it's straight, and I'm quite happy with it. We can get the border on and then move on to powering these lights. So that's the hex grid up and it's all bolted up. I've gone around it with some light and wire just to stiffen it all up because it was flopping in corners. Because I haven't got a frame on it, it's only bolted. It's only screwed on in the middle on these battens, and then everywhere else you can see just there's a few ties just to tie it all together and straighten it all back out. But because I've got the hex on now, what I need to do next is get the frame around the edge, because there's a square grid that goes around the edge, so I'll get that on now. And there it is, that grid's on now. Before we power it up, the cable is going to it, but before I actually turn it on, we need to fit the other low level lights, because to power this one, you've got to go through that one, which daisy chains through that, and that. So before we energise the Hexagon Grid, we need to get those other low level lights fitted so then we can power it all through and we can turn them on. But before I can fit that low level light, I've got to get the Porsche out the way and all this crap's in the way. So let's get all this gone. So now it's all over there, that space is nice and clean. Now we can drag the Porsche forward just enough to get up there on the ladder. So the Cayman wouldn't start because the battery's flat, but I know for a fact the screen wash pump definitely works. Take it from me, screen washing your eyes isn't nice. But because the Cayman won't start, now I just need to push it out the way so I've got space to change the lights.
Well, the Porsche's moved, I did want to drive it, but that's quite heavy considering how small it is. You've probably seen as well the windscreen is missing, but I'll update you all on that in the next Porsche video because we've got a lot more to do to this car and I've got a lot of parts to fit to it. And if you haven't seen what I've done to this Porsche so far, go click in the top right hand corner now to watch that playlist and see what it is I've done, because there's a lot more to do. And if you want to follow along with that build along with the GTO and the TT, which is outside currently, go hit the subscribe button down below, and if you like this video, press the like button while you're there. But anyway, let's get back to fitting those lights. So that's that light up. Now I've just got to do the other three. So there you are, there's one, there is two, there's three, and there's four. So I did do the lights off camera because obviously I have to turn the circuit off to actually put the lights up. So I've been doing it in the dark, which isn't really good for you. But let's turn them on and see what they look like. So there it is, all the underneath is in the dark. So let's turn the lights on. And all a lot brighter. It's all the same type of light as what's up top as well, which is the main thing for me. But as you can see, it's a lot brighter than the old orange ones.
And I know the main attraction is probably the hexagon lights, which are a lot brighter than everything else. So let me show you them next. And there they are. There's the hex lights with the border. They look a lot better than that old dingy orange light. And as you can see, there's a lot of light down below. Ignore the mess. We're sorting some stuff out with the walls, but I'll get onto that in a bit. But now that I've got these hex lights up, you can see the lighting is so much better. And when the cars are underneath, they'll look a lot better too, because it's not a dingy old orange light, and the camera picks it up quite well considering it's a nice bright ice white. So in terms of the walls, we're just putting a stud wall up here, so when I have all the wrap stuff up, I can put it all on the wall and it'll actually stay where it is. We've got a load of these panels that someone was getting rid of, so what we're going to do is we're going to stick all these little wooden panels all around the walls of the unit to board it all out and make it all look a lot nicer, and we can pack behind it with some insulation, because in here can get pretty cold, and over the past few days I've found that went out the hard way. But that's it, the lights are up. You can see even around here the buttons, the dimmer ones to that, they're up, and they look so much better, and it just makes the place look a lot more modern than a barn, because those old orange lights only really emphasise the fact that it was a barn and not a garage. That's going to be it for this video, guys. I've got to organise all this and clean all this mess up because there's stuff everywhere. But if you've liked what you've seen today and you want to keep up to date with the unit build, the car builds and everything else, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and turn on that notifications bell so you get an update every time I post a video, and I'll see you in the next one.